The first step into the unknown. The first human ship slipped into alien space by accident. The Dauntless, an old survey vessel refitted for deep-range exploration, wasn't built for history. It was built to chart stars, map asteroid belts, and scrape minerals from lonely moons. Its crew was small, just 32 men and women who had signed up for the quiet promise of exploration. No one on board had expected to become the first of their kind to cross into an empire that spanned hundreds of systems. But fate and the miscalculated jump brought them there. Captain Elias Vance was the first to see the alien fleet. He stood on the bridge with his hands behind his back, staring through the thick glass as 1,000 glittering ships blocked the stars. Their silhouettes were sharp and angular, designed not for beauty, but for fear. No shots were fired. Not yet. The Dauntless drifted in silence, its engines barely humming, its fragile hull trembling from the sheer gravity wakes of so many massive warships. Elias' crew whispered, their voices tight with terror. One mistake, one nervous twitch of a trigger on either side, and humanity's first contact with another civilization would end in annihilation. The aliens hailed them. A voice crackled through the comms, cold and precise, translated by the ship's automated systems. Identify yourselves. You trespass within the dominion of the Zorith Empire. Surrender and prepare to be boarded. The crew's panic boiled into shouting. Elias raised his hand, cutting through the noise. His voice, when he spoke, was calm. Open the channel. He leaned forward, his tone steady, as though he had faced this 1,000 times before. This is Captain Elias Vance, of the Terran vessel Dauntless. We mean no harm. We are explorers. If we have trespassed, we apologize. No bravado, no threats, no desperate begging. Just calm. And it was this calm, though no one knew it yet, that would terrify the Empire more than any weapon. The silence stretched across the void. Finally, the alien commander's voice returned, tinged with disbelief. You are human? You are not registered among known species. You claim exploration, yet you drift into forbidden space? Do you understand where you stand? Elias simply answered, No, that's why we're listening. The Zorith expected fear. They expected trembling. They expected cries of surrender. Instead, they met composure, a human trait honed through centuries of wars, disasters, and survival, against impossible odds. And so the Dauntless was not destroyed. It was escorted, under heavy guard, to the nearest Zorith world, Koresh, a jewel of black oceans and glassy spires. The crew expected cages, interrogations, perhaps execution. Instead, they found themselves in the middle of something stranger. Trial. The Empire convened its governors, its generals, its judges. They gathered in great halls of crystal and firelight to decide the fate of this unknown species called human. The question before them was simple. Did these newcomers live, or did they die? Elias stood at the center of it all, a single man in a storm of alien eyes. His crew watched from behind force fields, their fates bound to every word their captain spoke. The Zorith High Commander, a towering figure with obsidian skin and eyes like molten gold, leaned forward. Human, you speak with calm. Do you not understand? Your lives rest upon our mercy. You stand against an empire that has crushed worlds. Your calm is misplaced. Elias looked up, his face unreadable. No, he said quietly. It's earned. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Aliens who had conquered 100 civilizations could not understand why a fragile newcomer would stand without fear. And somewhere, hidden beneath their curiosity, was the first spark of unease, because if humans could face the empires, power with such composure, what else were they capable of? A fragile bargain, The holding chamber smelled faintly of metal and ozone. Human senses were sharper in some ways than the Zorath expected, and the crew of the Dauntless noticed things their captors overlooked. The subtle hum of energy conduits under the floor, the faint hiss of air recyclers, the way the artificial. Gravity shifted slightly when the station adjusted orbit. To most, it was a cage. To Captain Elias Vance, it was information. He sat cross-legged on the floor, listening as his crew argued. "They're going to kill us," muttered Kerrigan, the ship's mechanic, her hands shaking as she ran them over her cropped hair. "Why? Play games with a trial? They'll string us along and then—" "Enough," Elias said softly. He didn't raise his voice. He never needed to. Panic solves nothing. The words didn't calm her. But they reminded the others that their captain wasn't breaking. If he stayed steady, they had to try. A chime echoed. The force field flickered, and a figure stepped inside. The alien was smaller than most Zorath slender, his skin patterned with silver lines that pulsed faintly like veins of light. His eyes, a deep shade of violet, studied the humans not with contempt, but with curiosity. He wore no armor, only a translator circlet around his neck. "My name," he said carefully, "is Rin Tao. I am your appointed liaison to the court." Elias rose smoothly. "Then we're in your hands, Rin Tao." The alien tilted his head. "Strange. Others beg, threaten. You accept." Elias almost smiled. "We've learned it helps to listen before shouting." Rin blinked, then gestured. "You will be questioned. Each of you. The court wishes to know your nature." His eyes narrowed, searching their faces. "Do not mistake their interest for mercy." The interrogations began the next morning. Humans were led one by one into a crystalline chamber. Alien judges hovered in observation galleries, their voices carried through amplifiers. The questions were endless. Where does your species come from? What weapons do you possess? Do you claim dominion beyond your own world? What is your creed in war? When Elias was brought before them, the chamber was silent for a long time. Finally, the High Commander spoke. "Human, when your kind first gazes upon an empire that has ruled the stars for 10,000 years, why do you not tremble?" Elias stood alone, hands clasped loosely behind his back. He chose his words carefully. "Because trembling won't change what stands before us." Murmurs rippled through the galleries. "You are small. You are weak," the High Commander pressed. "Do you not fear extinction?" Elias met his eyes. "Every species fears extinction. The difference is what we do despite it." The judges exchanged glances, unsettled. Rin Tao, watching from the shadows, felt something stir in his chest. The humans weren't arrogant. They weren't boastful. They simply were. Over the following days, Rin grew closer to the crew. He visited their holding chamber, often under the guise of translation duties, but stayed longer than necessary. They shared Meal's alien nutrient gels for the humans, though Kerrigan managed to rig a heating plate to make the paste more tolerable. Rin asked questions about Earth, oceans, forests, music, laughter. "Your people sing?" he asked one evening. "All the time," said Naira, the ship's medic. "Sometimes to celebrate, sometimes to mourn, sometimes just because we're alive." Asterisk Rin's violet eyes widened. "We do not sing, not as you do. The Empire finds no need for it." "That's sad," Myra whispered Dot, and in that moment, Rin felt the weight of his own culture pressing down. He had been raised to believe the Empire was order, stability, inevitability. But these humans trapped, powerless, spoke of joy and sorrow, as though those things mattered more than conquest. The Empire's patience grew thin. On the 6th day, the humans were marched into a testing arena. Around them, thousands of Zorath. Citizens filled the stands, eager for spectacle. "The Empire must know if you are a threat," a judge announced. "You will demonstrate your strength." Warriors stepped forward, hulking Zorith soldiers, clad in armored carapace. Their weapons gleamed under the arena lights. Asterisk, the humans had nothing. No armor, no blades. Elias looked at his crew. "Remember," he said quietly, "strength isn't just muscle." The match began. The first soldier lunged at Kerrigan, expecting her to cower. Instead, she sidestepped, ducking low, and slammed her shoulder into the back of his knee. The giant crashed forward, his weapon clattering to the floor. The crowd gasped. Another soldier advanced on Mira, swinging a heavy staff. She stumbled, almost falling, then rolled under the strike and grabbed a fistful of sand from the arena floor. She flung it into the alien's eyes. Not strength, ingenuity, not power. Adaptability, asterisk, one by one. The soldiers fell not killed, but outmaneuvered, disarmed, humiliated. The humans didn't fight to dominate. They fought to survive. And they won. The arena erupted in chaos. Some shouted in anger, others in awe. The judges whispered furiously. But among the crowd, a dangerous seed took root. The humans had shown that calm did not mean weakness. Calm meant control. Asterisk, that night, Rin visited them again. His usual composure was gone. His voice trembled with urgency. "You don't understand what you've done," he hissed. "The people watched you. They whisper now. They wonder. No one has stood so calmly before the Empire in living memory." Elias studied him. Then maybe they needed to see it. Rin's hands shook. "The High Council will never allow it. They will decide soon. They will choose to end you before your calm spreads." Elias said nothing. His crew exchanged worried glances. And then, for the first time, Rin whispered something. Dangerous, something treasonous. I don't want you to die. Tell me what you need, and I will help." Whispers of fear. The attack on Koresh did not last long. Through the crystalline walls of the holding chambers, the humans watched as explosions blossomed in the black skies. Bright streaks of fire rained down toward the oceans, while the defense grid lit up with blinding pulses of energy. The Zorith Empire's response was overwhelming. Within minutes, the attackers' small strike ships, nimble but underpowered, were obliterated. Their debris burned up in the atmosphere like falling stars. The humans did not cheer. The Zorith citizens in the streets, however, wailed in fear. It had been centuries since Koresh was attacked, and even a failed strike left scars in their sense of invulnerability. Elias stood by the window, watching the faint trails of smoke. His face was unreadable. "They'll blame us," Mira whispered. "They already fear us," Elias replied. "Now they'll have an excuse." The next day, propaganda spread like wildfire. In every plaza, massive holoscreens displayed the Council's message. These humans brought war to Koresh. Their presence invites chaos. Their calm is a mask for dangerous intent. They must be contained before their infection spreads. Elias and his crew sat in their chamber as the words echoed outside. Citizens stared at them differently now. Where there had been curiosity, there was suspicion. Rintal entered with his head lowered. His violet eyes betrayed exhaustion. "They say the attackers were rebels," he murmured. "But the Council claims you inspired them." Kerrigan swore. "We didn't even know they existed." "That does not matter," Rin said. "The Empire does not need truth. It needs control." Later that night, a power surge knocked out part of the station's grid. The lights flickered. The air recyclers hiccuped. From beyond the force field, a sound rose, a low moaning, then frantic cries. Elias pressed against the barrier. "What's happening?" Rin appeared moments later, his translator humming. His voice trembled. "Civilians. Many are injured from the debris storm. The Council has ordered priority to defense systems. Medical aid is limited. Myra's face hardened. She was a medic before she ever boarded the Dauntless. Let me help them. Rin hesitated. It is forbidden. Then break the rules. Elias said firmly. Something in Rin cracked. He deactivated the force field and led Mira into the streets. The rest of the crew stayed behind, knowing too many humans outside would draw attention. The streets of Koresh were chaos. Glass spires lay, shattered, their edges glowing faintly from power conduits torn loose. Alien children cried as their guardians carried them through smoke. Myra knelt beside the first injured. She saw a Zorth boy with a gash across his chest, his silver veins flickering weakly. She didn't hesitate. She tore strips from her own shirt, pressing them against the wound. Hold pressure here, she told the boy's mother, guiding her hands. He'll be okay. Just breathe with him. Others came. A worker with a shattered arm. An elder whose breathing was shallow from smoke. Mira improvised with what little she had, splints from debris, bandages from discarded cloth, a makeshift inhaler from a damaged filter mask. The Zorith citizens watched in awe. Humans had no obligation. They were prisoners, accused of bringing destruction. Yet here was one of them, covered in soot and blood, kneeling in the dirt to save strangers dot by dawn. Word had spread. The humans were dangerous, yes, but they were also healers, helpers. Whispers began to ripple through the city, whispers that unsettled the Empire far more than the rebels' attack. When Myra returned, exhausted and shaking, Elias helped her to the floor. You saved lives, he said softly. They looked at me like they didn't believe it was possible, she whispered, like compassion was alien. It is, Rin admitted. He stood at the doorway, his expression torn. The Empire rules by fear. Mercy is not. Their language. He paused, lowering his voice. But the people, they are learning a new word. Humanity. The Council struck back with venom. The next tribunal session was harsher than before. The High Commander's golden eyes burned into Elias as he spoke. Your kind plays games with our people. You heal them. You smile at them. Do you think this will save you? It only proves you are insidious. Dangerous not for your weapons, but for your infection of minds. Elias did not flinch. If compassion is infection, then perhaps your people are already sick of cruelty. The chamber erupted in uproar. Guards slammed their weapons into the floor to silence the crowd. The High Commander leaned forward, voice low and sharp. You mistake our patience for weakness. The Council debates one question now, not whether you are guilty, but whether your world must burn before it learns of ours. The humans froze. Even Elias' composure faltered for a heartbeat. Rin, standing in the shadows, felt his blood run. Cold. He had feared it would come to this, but to hear it spoken aloud? The Empire was considering genocide. That night, Rin came to their chamber again, visibly shaken. They are serious, he whispered. They debate striking your home before. It grows aware of us. They believe calm like yours must come from hidden power. They will not risk your species rising. Mira covered her mouth. Kerrigan swore again. Elias looked at Rin, his eyes steady but burning. And you? Do you believe them? Rin's voice broke. I don't know what to believe anymore. But I know this. If they move against your home, I cannot stay silent. Elias stepped closer. His voice was quiet, but it carried weight. Then help us, not just to survive here. Help us protect Earth. Rin met his gaze. For the first time in his life, he chose defiance. Yes, he whispered ***, the spark of rebellion. The judgment chamber was a cathedral of light and fire. Tall crystalline pillars reached toward a ceiling that shimmered with false stars. The humans. were dragged to its center, their wrists bound in bands of energy that pulsed with a faint sting. Around them, hundreds of Zorith dignitaries gathered, their robes glimmering with metallic threads. Above, balconies overflowed with citizens invited to witness the verdict. The High Commander stood at the dais, towering, his obsidian form backlit by blazing orbs. His voice thundered through the chamber, amplified by the hall itself. Humans of Earth, you are unknown, unmeasured, and unbound. You show no fear before the might of the Empire. You spread unrest among our people. Therefore, we decree this. Your world shall not rise. Your home shall burn before it can challenge us. Gasps rippled through the balconies. Citizens clutched one another. Even among the Zorith, extermination of an entire species was no small thing. But the Council framed it as necessity, not cruelty. Elias Vance, standing with his crew, lifted his chin. His voice cut through the chamber, calm but sharp as a blade. Asterisk, you fear us because we don't kneel. The High Commander sneered. We fear nothing. Then why destroy what you claim is beneath you? Elias asked. The chamber stilled. One dangerous heartbeat, the Council's mask cracked. Citizens whispered. Doubt flickered in their golden eyes. The High Commander roared. Enough! Remove them. The sentence is set. They were dragged back to their chamber, force fields locking tighter than before. For the first time, despair crept into the crew. Myra leaned against the wall, her eyes glassy. They're going to kill billions. Billions of people who don't even know the Zorith exist. Kerrigan slammed her fist into the floor. We can't just sit here and wait. Silence hung heavy until Elias spoke. His voice was quiet, steady, unshaken. Then we don't wait. The others looked at him, startled. We adapt. We resist. If they fear us already, then let's give them a reason. Asterisk that night, Rin Tal came again. He slipped past guards with feigned indifference, but when he entered, his composure cracked. I don't have long, he whispered. The Council has ordered fleet mobilization. They will strike at your home within days. Elias' eyes narrowed. Is there a way to stop them? Rin hesitated. Not through force. Their fleet is vast. Your world cannot resist. But here, on Koresh, there are those who hate the Empire's grip. Workers, civilians, even some soldiers. They whisper of rebellion, but they have no spark. Elias stepped forward. Then we become the spark. Rin's violet eyes widened. You would risk everything? We already are, Elias said. If Earth is to have a chance, we can't wait for mercy. We make our own. The first act of rebellion was small. Asterisk Kerrigan had been watching the energy bands that bound their wrists. She noticed the faint flicker whenever the station cycled power through its conduits. Timing it carefully, she pressed a shard of glass hidden from a shattered drinking vessel against the band's joint. Sparks hissed. The lock flickered. She grinned. Old tech under all that shine. Sloppy. The bands came off, one by one. Asterisk. The humans didn't cheer. They knew freedom wasn't real not yet. But it was a beginning. Over the next days, with Rin's quiet help, they learned more. The workers on Koresh lived in fear, beaten down by centuries of tyranny. But when Myra returned to heal the wounded, whispers spread. The humans defy the Council. The humans help us. When Kerrigan tinkered with broken generators, restoring light to a half-flooded district, word traveled. The humans fix what the Empire ignores. When Elias spoke quietly to those who dared approach, he didn't promise victory. He promised choice. You don't need to fight for us. Fight for yourselves, for your children, for a future where you aren't told to kneel. The whispers grew louder. The Empire felt it. The backlash came swift. One evening, guards stormed the chamber. Without a word, they seized Rin Tal. He didn't fight. He only looked back once, his violet eyes wide with fear. "No," Mira shouted, slamming against the force field. "Where are you taking him?" the guard sneered. "Traitors learn their place." Rin was dragged into the dark. The crew stood in stunned silence. Elias' jaw clenched, but his voice remained steady. "No," he said. "They know he's helped us." Myra's hands shook. "They'll kill him." Elias looked at his crew, his voice hard as steel. "Then we don't let them." That night, Elias outlined the plan. They would escape. Not to flee, but to strike. "Koresh is the Empire's jewel," he said. "If the people rise here, the galaxy will notice. If we can free Rin, if we can light that spark, maybe Earth has time to prepare." Kerrigan smirked, adrenaline burning. Away her fear. "About damn time." Myra whispered, "And if we fail?" Elias' eyes were calm. "Then we fail standing, not kneeling." Asterisk the calm before the storm Koresh burned. From their shattered holding chamber, the humans saw plumes of smoke curling into the alien night. Fires licked across the lower districts, where workers and outcasts lived. The Empire's soldiers surged. Through the streets in shimmering lines, weapons raised, their golden eyes burning with cold discipline. But this was no foreign invasion. This was rebellion. The whispers the humans had sparked had grown into something uncontrolled. Workers, citizens, even low-ranking soldiers had risen in desperate fury. They carried scavenged tools, mining lasers, and raw courage. Against the Empire's armored troops, they were hopelessly outmatched. Yet they fought. Elias watched through the fractured crystal. His crew stood around him, tense, uncertain. "This wasn't us," Mira whispered. "They didn't wait for us. They didn't need to," Elias said. His tone carried no pride, only weight. They just needed the idea. The guards had vanished to join the crackdown. For the first time, the chamber was unguarded. Kerrigan seized the chance, tearing open the power conduit she'd been studying. Sparks showered her arms, but the force field collapsed with a final hiss. "Free," she muttered, grinning despite the burn marks. They stepped into the corridor. The station trembled under distant blasts. Red emergency lights bathed the walls. In blood-like glow, "First Rin," Elias said. His voice left no room for debate, that they found him in a detention wing chained to a restraint frame, his silver-lined skin dim from the energy siphons. When the humans entered, his eyes widened. "You came," he whispered. Myra rushed forward, breaking the restraints with a scavenged bar. "Of course we came," she said fiercely. Rin swayed, nearly falling. Elias caught him, steadying him with a hand. "We don't leave our own behind." For a moment, Rin stared at him as though the words were alien. Perhaps they were, but freedom was only the first step. As they moved deeper through the station, alarms blared louder. The crew slipped through shadows, dodging patrols. Twice they were cornered, once by soldiers, once by drones, but both times they fought with whatever they had. A pipe, a stolen shock baton, even bare fists. It wasn't strength that carried them. It was timing, ingenuity, unity. By the time they reached a service passage overlooking the city, they were battered and breathless, but alive. The sight below froze them. The rebellion was failing. The streets ran with smoke and blood. Citizens lay in heaps where soldiers had cut them down. Fires flickered out one by one as the Empire's order returned. Mira pressed a hand to her mouth. "They're slaughtering them." Rin's violet eyes burned with grief. "This is how it always ends. The Empire crushes, and the galaxy forgets." Elias stood in silence. His face was calm, but his crew recognized the storm behind it. Finally, he spoke. Not this time. That night, the council convened again, furious and afraid. The rebellion had been smaller than they feared, but larger than they admitted. And still, one truth gnawed at them. It had happened after the humans arrived. The High Commander slammed his clawed hand against the table. Enough. We strike before their infection spreads beyond Koresh. Ready the fleets. Earth burns within the cycle. The governors bowed their heads. Only one, an elder with faint cracks in her crystalline skin, dared to whisper, "But if they are not enemies? If their calm is something else?" The High Commander's molten eyes seared her into silence. Asterisk back. In the shadows of the lower city, Elias gathered his crew and Rin in the ruins of a collapsed spire. "We know their plan now," he said. "They're moving fleets against Earth. If they succeed, there's nothing left." Kerrigan clenched her fists. "We can't fight a whole empire." "No," Elias agreed, "but we can delay them. Distract them. Show them humanity isn't." "Pray." Rin stared at him. "You would fight here, against all odds, knowing it cannot be won?" Elias' voice was low, calm, unshaken. "I'd fight here so Earth has time to be ready." Asterisk over the next 2 days, the humans moved like shadows. Kerrigan sabotaged conduits, rerouting power to cause cascading failures. Drones fell from the skies mid-patrol. Mira organized civilians into makeshift clinics, turning basements into havens where the wounded were saved, not discarded. Even Rin found his courage, slipping messages through the underground. "The humans resist," he whispered. "The humans fight for us." And Elias walked among them, calm as ever. He gave no grand speeches, only steady words. "Stand together. Asterisk, breathe. Don't break. Fear is what they want. Don't give it to them." The rebellion had been crushed. But the embers glowed. The Empire noticed. New orders spread through the garrisons. Capture the humans alive. At all costs. Not to kill, not yet, but to study. To dissect what made them so unyielding. That night, as the crew prepared another strike, a shadow fell across their hideout. Dozens of armored soldiers surrounded them, weapons aimed. The High Commander himself stepped into the ruins, his presence filling the air like gravity. His golden eyes locked on Elias. "You have played long enough, human," he said, his voice deep and terrible. "Your calm tricks the weak, but it ends tonight." Elias looked at him, unflinching. His reply was quiet, steady, and far more dangerous than any threat. "Then let's see what happens when calm doesn't end." The shadow of humanity, the night sky above Koresh, rippled with light. The High Commander froze mid-gesture as streaks of silver burned through the void, their trails silent but unmistakable. Dozens of small, angular vessels emerged from shadow, their hulls darker, then space itself, until they caught the firelight of the city below. They were not massive warships like the Zorith fleet. They were lean, sharp, and quiet. They carried no banners, no declarations. They were ghosts. Rin gasped. That is not Zorith design." Elias' lips tightened into the faintest smile. "No, it isn't." The first human shadow fleet had arrived. The Zorith soldiers around them wavered, golden eyes flicking skyward. Their discipline faltered. For centuries, the Empire had believed itself unchallenged. Now, something unknown had slipped into there. Skies silent and unyielding. Asterisk, the High Commander snarled, snapping his arm forward. "Seize them." The soldiers surged. Elias moved first. He grabbed Kerrigan and shoved her toward the rubble. "Scatter." Blaster fire lit the ruins in burning. Arcs. Myra dragged Rin into cover, while Kerrigan hurled a scavenged charge into the soldier's path. It detonated with a concussive crack, tossing armored figures aside. The crew ran into the smoke. Asterisk above, the Shadow Fleet did not open fire. Instead, their presence disrupted the Empire's entire response. Communication lines jammed with static. Targeting systems failed. Ships veered off course as if dragged by invisible hands. "They're not fighting," Kerrigan muttered as they dashed through a service tunnel. "They're confusing them." "Psychological warfare," Elias said. His breathing was steady. Despite the sprint, "Show them a shadow. Let their fear do the rest." Rin stared at him, bewildered. "You knew this would happen?" No, Elias admitted. "But I knew Earth wouldn't stay blind forever." The crew regrouped in a half-collapsed hangar. Outside, chaos spread through Koresh. Soldiers firing at phantoms. Civilians rioting again. The sky alive with ships that refused to engage directly. Myra looked at Elias. "So what now?" "We can't just watch." "We don't," Elias said. He turned to Kerrigan. "How much sabotage can you manage in a night?" She smirked, already pulling tools from her belt. "Depends how many lights you want to go out." "All of them," Elias said, through the night. They struck like wraiths. Kerrigan crawled through maintenance ducts, rewiring power grids until half the city plunged into darkness. Myra led civilians through sewers to hidden shelters, where whispers grew. "The humans fight with us." Rin, trembling but resolute, spread false orders through stolen comms, sending Zorith patrols chasing shadows. And Elias Khan, unyielding, moved among them like a ghost, striking where morale was weakest. He never shouted, never panicked. His quiet presence steadied frightened rebels more than weapons ever could. The rebellion flared again, fiercer than before. Not because of strength, but because the people believed the Empire could bleed. The High Commander raged. He stormed into the council chambers, his armor scorched from battle. "They sow chaos with shadows. They turn our people against us. And this now crush the humans before their calm poisons everything." But one governor, the elder with cracked crystalline skin, raised her voice. "Perhaps it is not poison. Perhaps it is cure." The chamber erupted in shouts. The High Commander silenced them with a roar. "There will be no cure for rebellion. Only fire." By dawn, Koresh was a battlefield. Fires burned unchecked, smoke choking the spires. Civilians armed with nothing more than tools held barricades against soldiers. Elias and his crew stood atop a ruined plaza, overlooking the chaos. "We can't hold forever," Myra said. "We don't need to," Elias replied. He pointed skyward. "We only need to hold until the shadows do what they came for." As if on cue, the human fleet shifted formation. For the first time, they fired not at the city, but into the void above, where hidden Zorith reinforcements emerged. The blasts were precise, surgical. Small ships darted through massive dreadnoughts, cutting engines, crippling systems. They never engaged in full battle. They never gave the Empire the fight it wanted. They simply outmaneuvered, again and again, until hulking warships drifted powerless in orbit. The message was clear. Humanity would not meet the Empire's fire with fire. They would meet it with something worse control. On the ground, Rin stared. In disbelief. They're winning, not with strength. With patience. Elias' gaze was steady. That's what terrifies them most, not our rage. Our calm. But calm could only last so long. The High Commander descended to the city himself, leading a vanguard of elite soldiers. His armor gleamed like molten stone. His blade pulsed with energy that hummed through the air. He raised his voice across the battlefield, amplified through comms that reached every street. "Humans, you infect the weak with lies. You think shadows make you strong. But I will tear away your calm and show the galaxy what you truly are: fragile." The crew braced as the soldiers advanced. Civilians scattered. The plaza became a trap. Elias stood at the center, unarmed. He did not move. The High Commander sneered. "Still calm? Even now?" Elias' reply was quiet, steady, and terrible in its certainty. Yes, because calm is the last thing you see before the storm. Calm is the void. The city of Koresh shook as pods slammed into its burning streets. The Zoreth soldiers turned, weapons raised, expecting fire and fury. Instead, the pods opened with quiet precision. Humans stepped out in armor, darker than night, their helmets smooth, their weapons compact. They did not shout. They did not rage. They moved in silence. One soldier, panicked, fired. The shot was intercepted midair by a humming shield. A human raised his rifle, and with a single shot, disarmed the attacker without killing him. The message was clear. We came prepared. We came calm. The High Commander growled, tightening his grip on his glowing blade. So this is humanity. Shadows. And whispers, fear instead of honor. Elias stood before him, unarmed, smoke curling around his boots. The crew Myra, Kerrigan, and Rin waited at his back, ready but tense. Honor? Elias said softly, you mistake cruelty for honor. You mistake silence for weakness. You've built an empire on fear, Commander. But fear can be turned. The commander lunged. The clash was brutal. The commander's blade carved arcs of molten light, cutting through stone like paper. Elias dodged, fast but barely, his coat tearing as energy scorched past. He moved with the instincts of a soldier long retired, but never untrained. Kerrigan tossed him a scavenged staff. Elias caught it and met the blade head-on. Sparks exploded. His arms shook under the impact, but he held firm. Mira fired from cover, forcing Zoreth elites to scatter. Rin, trembling, used stolen comms to feed false orders, turning squads against each other in the smoke. The plaza became chaos again. Civilians surged behind barricades, emboldened by human reinforcements. And through it all, Elias fought. Not with rage, with focus. With calm. The commander pressed harder, roaring with each strike. You cannot win with shadows. Strength rules the galaxy. Elias' staff cracked, splinters flying. He stumbled, barely dodging a killing blow. Then he straightened, sweat and ash streaking his face. His voice carried through the static, not shouted, but steady. Strength fades. Empires fall, but calm endures. The human fleet. Above punctuated his words with precision strikes, disabling another wave of Zoreth reinforcements without a single wasted shot. The commander faltered. For the first time, doubt flickered in his golden eyes. Kerrigan lunged forward, jamming a charge at the commander's feet. The explosion hurled him back, his armor cracked, his blade sputtering. Elias advanced slowly, unshaken by the smoke and fire. The commander struggled to rise. His soldiers hesitated. Civilians shouted from the ruins, voices rising. With the humans, with the shadows. The galaxy was watching. Not through broadcasts, but through whispers that would spread faster than any propaganda. The Empire's image of invincibility was breaking. The commander roared, forcing himself up. He raised his blade again, only to find Elias' staff at his throat. The plaza went silent. Elias did not strike. He did not kill. He simply stared into the commander's burning eyes and spoke words that cut deeper than any blade. You wanted us to be monsters. But we are human, and that is enough. He lowered the staff. Gasps rippled through the watching crowd. Even some Zoreth soldiers shifted uncertainly. Mercy. In the heart of war, that was a language their empire had never spoken. The commander snarled, broken pride twisting his face. He staggered back and shouted to his troops, fall back to orbit. The empire fled Koresh. The battle ended not with triumphal music, not with banners, but with silence. Humans stood among aliens in the ash. Rebels embraced. Children clung to Mira's coat. Kerrigan wiped soot from her hands, smirking despite exhaustion. Rin dropped the cum unit, his crystalline face wet with tears. Elias stood in the center, still calm, still steady, as if the war around him had never touched him. But it had. His hands trembled slightly when no one watched. His eyes were tired. He bore the weight of every life lost. Yet he stood tall, because calm was not absence of fear. Calm was standing in the fire and not letting it consume you. Days later, as the smoke cleared, messages spread through the galaxy. Not official transmissions, the Empire would crush those. But whispers, rumors, stories carried by refugees and traders. The humans came. They did not rage. They did not burn. They endured. And their calm was more terrifying than war. Asterisk in hidden cantinas and council halls. The question began to grow. If humans could break Koresh without a war, what else could they do? On the balcony of a ruined tower, Elias watched the sunrise with his crew. Myra leaned on the railing. So what now? We've painted a target on ourselves. Kerrigan grinned, tossing a spanner. Good. Targets are easier to aim back at. Rin's voice was quiet, reverent. You've changed everything. My people, they'll never see the Empire the same way again. Asterisk Elias' gaze lingered on the horizon, where the human shadow fleet drifted like patient sentinels. We didn't come here to change everything, he said. But maybe that's what it takes. His voice softened, almost to himself. The galaxy has seen our calm. Next, they'll learn our hope. Epilogue far above Koresh. In the shattered silence of orbit, the High Commander knelt before his masters on the Imperial throne world. His armor was cracked, his pride broken, his voice unsteady. They are not what we believed. They are worse. They do not fight as we do. They wait. They watch. And when they move, they do so without fear. Their calm spreads like disease. The throne room trembled with unease. One voice, old and deep, answered from the shadows. Then we will have to break their calm, or it will break us. And across the stars, humanity's shadow stretched further, quiet and patient. The storm had only just begun. Asterisk.